Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Combat Child podcast. Today we're going to be going over the previous week's UFC card, the UFC fight night between Santos and Hill. Interesting card, lots of knockouts on the main card. Anyway, if you want to start us off in, the first fight was Terrence McKinney and Eric Gonzalez.
It started off obviously Terrence McKinney fighting Drew Dober last time out on short notice, and then fighting Eric Gonzalez, he's a decent fighter to be fair, but he's had one fight in the UFC Pro, I'm pretty sure, and lost to Jim Miller. It was you can say a step down in competition for Terrence McKinney, and he made it look as easy as the odd makers had it. I think he was the biggest favorite on the card. He looked very sharp. I think he looked a lot calmer than he was in his previous fights, but he can't help himself but start so fast. You know what I mean? There's a reason. I think before he joined the UFC, 8 fights or 7 fights in a row were ended in the first 3 minutes, which in the first round, which is crazy. And I remember me and my brother. We found out about him just before he joined the UFC because there was a lot of noise about him. But yeah, I think he's looked amazing so far. His boxing was crisp and powerful. Yeah, and his grappling's very, very good as well. I don't know what you thought about it.
Very much so. I mean, it was an interesting bout, really. Obviously, Eric Gonzalez, he did take Jim Miller on very short notice, which, I mean, for a debut in the UFC, for that to be your first fight against the most experienced fighter in the UFC, is mental, really, So it was an interesting one to see, really. I thought Terrence McKinney looked really good.
Yeah.
It ended fairly quickly, as you would expect. I think a submission, wasn't it?
Yeah, took the back,
Really, really nice one, that grappling as well. But even just prior to that, the striking, the way it was set up, just so powerful, just so explosive. From moment one, I think it was like 7 second knockout.
Yeah, first debut. I think it's the quickest knockout in the UFC debut as well, which is interesting.
I think it might be. I saw a stat about his UFC fights and the amount of fights he finishes. I think he's finished almost all of his fights.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever been to a decision. I'm not sure.
But yeah, no, regardless, I mean, it's a really good submission as well. Just very, very much controlling, very dominant performance, and a really good way to kick off the main card. So yeah.
Yeah, I've actually spoke to Terrence McKinney a little bit on Instagram. I don't want to promise anything, but hopefully at some point we can get an interview with him. So that'd be huge for us. We're very big fans of Terrence McKinney. He's one of the best prospects in this lightweight division, and I can't wait to see what he does in the future.
Very much so, very much so. Anyway, moving on to the next fight is Augusto Sacco versus Sergey Spivak. Very, very interesting fights. Very early KO as well. Not quite as early as the first round, but second round KO. Quite dominant,
Yeah,
I'd say.
very dominant.
Very dominant. I think he's one of 3 Moldovan fighters in the UFC, which is interesting, really, to think that considering Moldova is such a small country as well.
I wonder who the other two are. I can't think of the top of my head, but it's interesting. Moldova, yeah, it's one of those tough places, though. You know what I mean? It seems like from these sort of areas, a lot of them are tough, good grappling but bases.
Kutalaba.
Oh yeah, Ion Kutalaba.
But yeah, no, it's really interesting, especially considering Moldova. I don't believe it's a massive country either.
No, is that near Croatia? I want to say
Moldova. It's in Europe. It's in Europe.
Yeah.
I think it's around that part, Eastern Europe. Population 2.68 million, 6.8 million.
It's
It's
not
smaller than Ireland.
Oh yeah, well,
So pretty tiny, and to have 2, 3 active UFC fighters from such a small country, that's pretty mental.
there's
Really.
two quite successful ones as well, and Spivak and Kutalaba, both been some big fights.
Oh, definitely so, definitely so. But really, So as far as the fight is concerned, fairly dominant. I mean, it's one of those things, really. He also had I think something like he had 12 wins by finish.
He's. I think they were all TKO or KO as well.
I think it might have been 6 submissions, 6 KO. But
Oh really? Really? I thought I had the commentator say he hasn't submitted someone, or they might have been talking about Sakai. I might have just mixed them up. But yeah, it's still interesting. Very good streak of finishes.
Oh, very much so, very much so. Anyway, so what do you say of the fight? Really?
Yeah, so I think Spivak, he looked a lot better on the feet than he usually does. I know he's got a lot of finishers, but he looked a lot quicker and more crisp. From the off, you could see the grappling was just so one-sided. I think I think that the way he wrestled was just dominant. Like I forgot his name. My mind's gone blank. Augusto Sakai. Sorry, my mind just went blank. But yeah, Sakai couldn't deal with the grappling, and like you could see once he was put on his back, he didn't really have much answers to find a way up. So yeah, it was not. I don't have much to say on it. It was a very dominant performance from Spivak.
Nah, definitely so. I mean, it's unfortunate really because he was being told to, protect himself and defend. But
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot he could do in that situation. He was
you
held against a cage, he was on his
yeah,
back.
and you could see like he was trying to stand up, but the weight from Spivak was so much he was just dropping back to his knees when he was just like, kind of like shifting up. It was a rough night for him to be honest, and I think he needs a big step down in competition. He's been fighting the best guys in Rosenstreich and Overeem and people like that, so. Yeah, I think Sakai should maybe fight like a Walt Harris. That would be a good matchup. Walt Harris. I don't know if he's interested in fighting after the horrible news about his stepdaughter, but I mean that'd be a good matchup if Walt Harris does want to come back and fight again.
Oh, that would definitely be an interesting one. I mean, I feel like it's unfortunate really that it did end so quickly. Made it exciting night. With all these knockouts and whatnot.
10 finishes, 10
Uh,
fights.
yeah, yeah.
Crazy night of fights, man. Still ended at 6 in the morning here. That wasn't ideal, but they like to drag it out on the broadcast.
Lots of repeated advertisements.
Yeah,
Lots of
it was a
repeated little
painful
bits.
night, man. I don't know how much longer I can stay up for these fight nights. I might just have to watch them the next day.
Yeah, very much so. Anyway, so next bout was the one flyweight bout. It was between Brogan Walker and Juliana Miller. This is a
Oh yeah.
tough final, was it?
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of MMA fans are 50-50 on if they watched Tough after the last 2 seasons. I don't know if you watched a little bit of this season, but I don't think you watched all of it, did you? I watched it. It was a painful watch, to be honest, but the two fights delivered on this card. So, what were your thoughts on the fight?
So as a fight, it was very much. We're seeing a lot of female fights at the moment, which involve a lot of clinch fighting,
Mm,
and I feel like it's very much very dominant in female MMA at the moment. As far as the fight's concerned, I'm fairly confident that she got taken down every single round,
yeah, she did.
and I'm fairly confident that it remained majoritively on the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought Juliana Miller, she looked good and whatnot. She looked very strong, very powerful, and I think that fight style is going to do well in the flyweight division, especially considering she's quite strong.
Yeah, and she's so. How many pro fights has she had? Like five, six,
Four.
four? Yeah, gee,
Oh no, five. Sorry, five.
five. Yeah, five pro fights. So crazy inexperienced and just very dominant. I think she was fighting. I think she's a black belt. The girl she was fighting. So it's she wasn't meant to take her down and dominate. You could see in the corner. They were telling her the other girl to grapple. So. I don't know. I don't know. It was again another dominant grappling performance.
Oh, very much so, very much so. Moving on to the next fight. The next fight was between Muhammad Usman and Zach Parker. Another tough heavyweight final. Well, it was the tough heavyweight final as well as the previous one. Muhammad Usman, very impressive, very impressive. Zach Parker couldn't necessarily do a lot about him. I think he went in with the right mentality.
Yeah, I think he was winning the fight until he got knocked out. To be honest.
You say so?
Yeah, like I think Usman was missing a lot, man. His striking is quite sloppy at times. I think through Tough, he has a special mentality built in. This is what I gained from watching Tough. Muhammad Usman, a bit like his brother, sometimes is outmatched skill wise, and I think like Usman against Burns, Gilbert Burns against Usman, it was more that you could see Usman was kind of slow in the striking, and I think his brother was kind of the same. They're both like, I mean, Usman's improved a lot, but Muhammad Usman still looks on the sloppy side in my opinion. But he digs in and finds a way to win. So yeah, I think Kamaru was lucky enough. He found a coach like Trevor Whitman to train him, and the jab is a lot better, and he has the fundamentals. But I think Muhammad needs a bit more work in that department. But it was a beautiful counter hook. I think it was a left hook, knocked him clean out. It was brutal.
Yes, that's the thing. I mean, he was very much reliant on counter punching throughout the fight. It stayed virtually on the feet the whole time.
Yeah, I don't think any tried to grapple. I think Muhammad's a really good wrestler, and we didn't see him use it in tough much either. So
I think he
it,
might have attempted to take down though.
he might have, yeah. But I mean, like, I'm pretty sure in college he was a better wrestler than Kamaru.
Oh, okay.
So like, I think he finished second in the state championships, which is very good, like a very good level of wrestling, and it'd be interesting to see when he uses that in the UFC.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, it would be really interesting. I feel like, especially with wrestling being such a dominant fighting style within the UFC, and all of these top fighters nowadays, or all of these future top fighters, primarily being wrestlers, but like the Gamrot, a lot of these Dagestani wrestlers, looking to become future potential UFC champions. I think that with Muhammad, he did look good. I thought at Zach Parker, he didn't look poor at all, to be fair. It was not one really. You could tell that he was cautious of Muhammad Power.
Yeah,
You could definitely tell. And you could tell that he was trying to keep him at range for using his leg kicks, for using those just kicks in general.
I thought he looked like the better striker. I think that, like, just more technical, using a lot more setups. Usman, I was saying to Solly, who's been on the podcast before when we were watching it, I was saying like Usman, if he wins this, and I thought he would win even watching the fight, that I think it'll be from not a mistake from Polga, but him kind of rushing in, do you know what I mean? And I thought that would be kind of the only way Usman wins the fight, like catches him clean, and that's what happened. And sorry, one thing I wanted to ask you, going back to the Brogan Walker Juliana Miller fight. I know it's a bit backtracking, but I forgot to ask you. What did you think? Did you see the afters where she like did the WWE thing? I can't remember I wasn't massive on WWE, but I think it was like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and then she kind of pushed her down after she finished her, and I just don't like to see that, man. But apparently she was chatting shit to her in her ear, so what were your thoughts on that? Did you see that?
I can't say I quite remember seeing that exactly.
Yeah,
but,
so like the ref pulled her off when she finished her with the elbows, and she just like shoved her back down afterwards.
Okay, so it's one of those things. I think that is from a showmanship point of view.
Yeah.
Where, a lot of UFC fighters, they build up their name, they build up their popularity, their hype and whatnot through performing acts of behaviour like that. I think, but if you look at it from a respect point of view, if you look at it from an MMA and martial artist point of view, it's not the most respectful thing to do, especially when your opponent's down.
I guess if someone's chatting shit, they're chatting shit. Do you know what I mean?
It's one of those things, really. It depends on how you look at the sport as it is.
Yeah.
If you're a really big fan of that, then yeah, that's pretty cool and whatnot. I mean, obviously, trash talking is one of the biggest things in the UFC. It's what made it as big as it is. Conor McGregor, Chael Sonnen, I mean, all of them lot. So I think that, although it's not necessarily nice to see if you're looking at it from purely a respectful, disciplined perspective, fans love it.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously with UFC and WWE, I think that there's a big crossover.
There is, definitely.
As far as fan base is concerned.
That's what my point was, is she even brought up she was a massive fan of WWE as a kid, Miller did, and she was saying that showman side kind of comes out sometimes, and I think with Chael Sonnen especially, we saw those moments with the long rants he used to go on. But yeah, I just wanted to see if your opinion, like, I thought you'd be leaning more towards your showmanship, but I just think after brutally finishing a go of elbows, that's enough at that point. You don't need to shove her down. But like I say, if someone's apparently in the first round, she was saying, those are some weak elbows and stuff like that. Like, you won't hit me with unclean, and just stuff in her ear. So when she finished all of them, I expect the adrenaline took over as well.
Well, that's the thing. I think that if a good example of it is, as you said about the WWE crossover, a lot of fighters being fan of WWE fighters. If we look at Israel Adesanya at 277.
Yeah, against, was that Cannonier?
Cannonier was Cannonier. Yeah. The Undertaker walkout.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it's a big move, but
and Kobe Covington always walks into Kurt Angle's theme tune. You suck. Duh, duh. One of the best walking. I was a bit of a fan of WWE, but like that era, I had no idea. But every time Kobe's walking song comes in, I get so pumped up.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that WWE is just such a theoretical sport. Sport. Well, yeah, you could call it a sport. It's not necessarily.
It's more of a sport than anything else, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all they're all physically active athletes who have to be in a top peak physical condition. Although some of them may not look it, they all are.
EPO helps and TRT and I don't know if they use that sort of stuff, but they definitely use something, don't they?
Well, it's not competitive. It's
Exactly.
not
It's
fixed
fine.
because it's not even supposed to be competitive.
No. I can't believe I used to think that was real as a kid, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hit each other with chairs and whatnot.
Yeah, like metal steps. I'm gonna kill someone if you wrap it around their head.
Proper loud. But yeah, no. Anyway, go back to Adesanya. I think that obviously a lot of fighters would have watched WWE when they were younger and whatnot, and I think that a lot of them did take inspiration from it. If you look at Pride, I think Pride's a good example of the impact which showmanship has on getting fans hyped up. Whereas Pride walkouts for mental. Absolutely mental.
Yeah.
The arenas, everything. It was like a WWE kind of. It was obviously MMA, but the whole.
Yeah, it was all a big. They brought like a big. I think it was a big boxer, maybe Mike Tyson, in the ring at one point to fight one of the big heavyweight champions, and they were never going to do it, but it was just to gain the numbers. It was all about showmanship and pride.
Exactly. I mean, that Dom Fry fight, I can't quite remember his name. I know he got paralysed in
it was
2012, but what was it, the clinch work?
Big Asian guy won it.
Yeah, I can't quite remember his name. He was a pro wrestler, so he had 3 fights. But
Did he break his neck or something?
I believe so. He got paralysed. It was I think it was performing like a stunt or something.
To be fair, that fight would have probably got him later on in life anyway. So no, it's those sort of fights are dodgy, like yeah.
But no, that's the whole thing, and I think that when fighters love putting on a show, it definitely builds hype up for the sport and whatnot, and that will definitely, after being on something like tough and whatnot, where a lot of UFC fans would have been watching that, as well as also just because that's going to be reposted on WWE pages and all sorts. I think that it's a good career move, but from a respectful point of view, from a disciplined martial art point of view, it's when it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
The rest called it, it's over. It's over.
But then it's also like Khabib Conor, like you see the antics after that fight. Sometimes if someone is just in your ear the whole time, then you've got that win over him. I'm not the type of guy to do that, but I could see where the attractiveness of just going mental in their face afterwards comes from.
Oh, definitely so.
Yeah, so anyway, moving back onto the UFC, we went on a bit of a rant there, but why not? So the co-main event next, I believe, was obviously Luque against Neil. What were your thoughts on this fight? Neil looked sharp, man.
So Neil looked so impressive, from his power to his speed to his energy. I feel like Luque, he took a beating.
Yeah.
The only person to ever knock out Vincent Luque as well.
Yeah.
Which is mental, really. Although in all fairness, when you take out any punches and don't decide to move your head, you're going to take a bit of damage.
If he could move his head, he would. I don't know why, because such a high-level fighter, being able to learn that much of the game, and let's be honest, it's some of the worst. I tweeted it's some of the worst head movement I've seen from he's a high rank, I think number 6 or something like that, ranked welterweight before that fight. So, I mean, and for that to be a hole in your game, a lot of people. If I was a fighter, and I don't want to sound disrespectful here because I'm a massive fan of Luque, I'd look at that fight as a very winnable fight. He walks forward and eats punches. He just counter punch all day, and there was swift with that left hand. It kind of reminded me of like Conor McGregor, the way it was just straight down the middle, and his angles, his boxing angles, like the slips and uppercuts, it was beautiful.
That's the thing. I think Jefferson's boxing was amazing, really. And I think he got like 1 or 2 on the first round. One of them might be the slip.
Yeah, no, he rocked him real bad, and he kind of like braced his fall, and I don't think they counted it. But the other one was a clean knockdown.
Very much so. But he looked really impressive, and I think that Vincent Luque it's hard to counter punch when somebody's just that sharp and accurate and quick.
Yeah.
I think that it's a shame, really, because maybe if Luque potentially, did something different, maybe had a bit more, maybe was a bit more responsive, reactive, although he had a hard time doing so, he might have done slightly better. Second round, though, there was a point in which I think he had him against the cage.
Yeah, I mean, some people thought Luque won that second round, and it was 1-1 going into the third, and I can see that argument. I think it was still a very close round because Neil got a takedown. He landed still some clean lefts, but Luque, there's definitely an argument for it being 1-1 into the last round.
I mean, it's very contentious second round, and the third round, that KO, just how many uppercuts did he land?
I think it was 9 in a row,
9 in
bang
a
straight
row.
up the middle. And Luque was so hurt he couldn't counter it because obviously Neil wouldn't be throwing 9 uppercuts in a row at someone who's not that hurt.
And that's the thing. I mean, fair play to Savannah
Yeah,
9
Luque is
uppercuts.
so tough, man.
But yeah, no, honestly, it's very dominant that third round. Resulted in that KO. The way he jumped as well.
Yeah, he was proper out. Like for a second there, he was unconscious, definitely.
But I think
Face first.
it all goes back to Jeff Neal's, boxing that fight.
Yeah,
It was just so effective. It was just so hard to and clean and accurate. It was really hard to defend against, and
Yeah.
I think that seeing Vincent Luque cover up like that, it's not the most common thing. You see,
No.
it's rare. And Jeff Neal looked really quite impressive. I thought Luque had some really nice kicks in the fight.
Yeah, it was disrupting the rhythm of Neil quite a lot. He was trying to like find the angle to find that left hand, and he kept eating the body kick, front kicks, leg kicks. He looked good. He's always a world class fighter offensively, but I mean his defense from the Barberena fight, I could see his defense was weak. Like it is. I'm such a big fan, but it is he's very beatable. That's what I think about when I think about Luque.
I just feel like toughness will only ever get you so far.
Yeah.
And I think that although he's very good technically, just the lack of head movement, the lack of just general movement. I mean, he always has good footwork, but it's very much the footwork of somebody who
Plods.
just wants to plods
Yeah.
and just wants to out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And when somebody's that sharp and accurate and just lands that many strikes over and over again, you can only take so much damage in a fight before it gets to a point in which it's built up to a point in which you're then looking to essentially be in real danger of being KO'd or TKO'd. And although he was defending himself, in the sense that he was reacting the entire fight, the amount of punishment he took, it was going to catch up to him.
Definitely.
And it was very impressive performance from Jeff Neal.
Yeah. I think that's his performance of his career. That and the Mike Perry fight are the ones that stand out straight away in my mind.
Oh, okay.
And I think the fight with Gilbert Burns is there. He called him out afterwards, but I want to see the rematch with Bilal Muhammad because Jeff Neal has a win over Bilal Muhammad. So running that one back, Bilal's higher ranked than him. Bilal's on a crazy win streak. I don't know what off the top of my head, but he's won a lot in a row, beating Luque last time out as well. So I think that's the logical matchup for them both. I think that the winner of that maybe fights a Gilbert Burns, and the winner of that fights for a title.
It would definitely be very much interesting. Very like so. He's obviously on another territory. You said.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find it now, really. But yeah, no.
Off the top of my head, I think like 6, 7 wins in a row, maybe a bit more, but maybe not a bit more. But he had the no contest to Leon Edwards, but he got poked in the eye. So is it what?
So it's in the last 8 fights, he's had 7 wins, one of which was a no contest, and then prior to that, he's lost once every 3-4 fights.
Yeah, but his improvement has come recent. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously he got knocked out by Luque in like the first 40 seconds or something. I might be wrong on that, but I know it's the first round. And obviously comes back and dominates majority of the fight last time out against Luque. You can see how much he's improved. So I think him against Neil, that's the best matchup for them both, in my opinion.
Oh, very much so, especially when you look at his recent performances. His recent opponents is Damien Maia, Stephen Thompson, Vincent Luque. I think, with him just having beat Vincent Luque, Jeff Neal, and with Bilal Muhammad.
I think Thompson's such a good win.
Vincent Luque. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And and Damien Maia as well to. So I think it would be a really quite interesting rematch, and I think that would be really good to see 1-on-1.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, well, 1-over-1, I should say.
Oh yeah.
No. Getting 4 people in the octagon.
Yeah. Have you seen that in Russia?
I have not. No.
Oh man, it's crazy stuff, man. I don't want to get into it. Maybe we'll talk about it one day, but yeah, like 4-on-4 like matches.
But that's very much WWE like.
Yeah, but it's real, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, of course. Well, what was it? What do they call it? The Rumble.
Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble, that's it.
There we
Anyway, enough about WWE.
Yeah.
Talk about some real
Yeah,
sport.
let's
Just like
stop.
some real non-fixed fighting. Well, we did speak about Pride. The next,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. Back to the theatricals and the showmanship. But no, the next fight was the main event. It was between Thiago Santos and Jamahal.
Hmm.
Interesting fight. Thiago Santos. What do you think of him?
I think the passion's not there, man. I think he's still a very capable fighter. He's competitive in a lot of these fights, but I remember watching him before the John Jones fight. He was a killer. And like him talking about just having a kid, I'm pretty sure, and how he's motivated coming into this one. I just thought you can't back up like that against a power puncher all the time. I thought until he started grappling in like the third, sort of late second round, I thought he was just on the back foot the whole time. Jamal Hill, he was cutting off the cage okay. He was circling to the right because he's got a beautiful counter left hand. So I think that's what he was looking for mainly. And he impresses me so much because I think he's 12-1 now or 11-1. I'm not sure, but
11-1,
11
11-1.
and 1. And to be that inexperienced and you look at his record and see the people he's beat people who's fought for titles, like some serious wins on his resume. And I think he can only go up. I think he matches well against a lot of these light heavyweights as well. But yeah, he was hungry to finish Santos. You could see like he had no problem standing in the pocket and brawling it out with Thiago Santos, which not many people want to do. So yeah, I think later on the damage just kind of added up. Santos got hurt a few times, even by the jabs. Like Jamal Hill's got very powerful jabs, and he's just a simple boxer, but he's got great cardio because that was a high-paced fight as well. I was actually really impressed with Hill. I don't know what your thoughts were.
I thought Thiago Hill was.
Thiago Santos.
Yeah, sorry. Jamal Hill.
It's late here, man. I've been forgetting names all night.
I was meant to say Jamal Hill,
Yeah.
not Thiago Hill. Yeah, Thiago Santos is the one. Jamal Hill was a winner. Yeah, no. So Jamal Hill, yeah, I thought it looked good. To be fair, he looked very, very good on the feet, very sharp. I felt like Thiago Santos, he looked like he didn't want to fight on the feet.
Yeah.
He shot for a lot of takedowns from round 1 to round
Four, I think, yeah.
round 4, and he didn't land many. To be fair, I thought he looked really good in the clinch. Jamal Hill, I thought he really did.
Same. I was impressed with it. Again, only being 11-1 now, so not much experience, not been doing MMA for a long time. So yeah, his grappling impressed me. His defense for grappling.
I think a lot of that comes down to his strength as well, though.
Yeah.
So, you look at Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos is a monster.
Yeah.
He is absolutely ginormous. He's a big guy. Probably a little bit bigger. Probably, a
lot more muscular.
Oh, 100%. He's got a bit more on him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but looking at Jamal Hill, if you look at his last few fights, they've primarily been like KOs and TKOs.
Yeah.
Like I think he had a few decisions earlier on in his pro MMA career, but he's got some real power behind his striking.
Yeah.
And it's very much clear to see. And I thought that he looked really, really impressive. Thiago Santos, I remember, I think it might be the second or third round, he threw like a back fist.
Yeah. When he rushed in.
Yeah, which looked quite nice.
Santos is wild still. Like you don't want to trap him in a corner because he'll got hit with some clean shots. Just like some shots that would knock some people out,
And that's the thing. I mean, trap someone like that in a corner. It's you and them in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, I mean, overall, I thought Hill looked really, really quite good. Thiago Santos, whether you said about him maybe not really wanting it.
Yeah, I just feel like since the injuries in the Jones fight and not getting that title on a close decision, I just feel like a lot of his fights no, he's not the same. He's not. I don't want to sound harsh because he's still competing at the top level, but like he doesn't have the same killer instinct. I don't know if it's because he can't move the same after the surgeries, but like there's been a lot of fights where he's kind of just been passive. Do you know what I mean?
So that's an interesting point you say about the surgeries. Obviously, I think was it John Jones?
Yeah.
And how many injuries did he have in that fight?
A lot. Like I remember the list. I don't know. I wish I had it on me because he tore everything he can tear in his leg. It was crazy. Like 6 different places in his knee or something crazy like that.
I mean, it was mental really because I remember we watched that card live,
and
it was the fact that he was still
very
performing.
Yeah.
It was very, very competitive. He looked really, really good. But Yeah, no, it's interesting. I want to find out what they are now
Yeah,
because he suffered. It said that he suffered 4 injuries on Sportskeeda, but
4 injuries.
whether that's correct or not, I thought it was more, if I'm honest.
Yeah, the list was more obviously with these sort of things just after the fight they over exaggerate still. But I remember just like one of the doctors said he named everything he injured and it was like at least 7 different things.
So as far as ligaments are in his knee, he tore 3 or 4 of them. He tore his ACL,
Mm.
his MCL, and his PCL.
That is just that yeah, that's every important ligament in your knee.
Yeah, I tore my PCL once, and I was out for a few weeks. But I know that an ACL that can
ACL's
be
like a year. That's like worst case scenario is a year, and best case is probably 9 months.
exactly, and it often very much requires surgery as well.
So is that's and MCL's like in a couple months, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
I'm not too sure about an MCL. I know that an ACL that's the anterior cruciate ligament,
Yeah,
and the PCL is the posterior.
yeah. I think the ACL was what Tom Aspinall just did at UFC London in his injury in the first round. And I think he's out for like 7 or 8 weeks. I think I heard Bisping say so. I don't think that one's so bad, but all of them on top of each other, man. I don't know. I can't remember how long Thiago Santos had out, but he hasn't looked the same since.
Nah, definitely not. Especially he was on a tear as well before that, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was in like a really big
He
tear.
knocked out Jan Blachowicz, who won the title after that. So
And to be fair, I mean, to fight John Jones, you have to be on a tear,
yeah,
especially back then. I said we wanted about him, but it's top fight, top
yeah,
fighter.
yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so we spoke about a card, 30 minutes. Not as long as it normally is. Gonna go over a bit of news.
Yeah, we've So obviously, I think first of all we have not an explanation to do because obviously we're not like a priority to do this every single week, but we did not want to have as much time off as we did. So I had COVID for pretty much 2 weeks, which was it hit me pretty hard, pretty rough. Virgil a lot of time working, working nights, so in the evening we couldn't film these podcasts. But for the next couple months now, we're free every single week, and we want to be consistent. We want to make that clear. So yeah, we'll be back every week for a while now, and yeah, so there's a bit of news that just to go over that's happened while I've been away. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is. I think Dustin Poirier and Chandler is pretty much confirmed. Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier, and that is a crazy fight. Obviously, both big names at lightweight. Without giving a prediction, what do you think for that fight? I think it's on the Pereira Izzy card as well. So
So it's gonna be a really, really interesting fight to watch. I think that Michael Chandler, he's definitely deserving of
big fight.
a big fight,
Yeah.
especially after the recent performances. I think that Poirier is going to be a challenging one. Chandler is so athletic, and Poirier, is boxing.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see how they go about it, whether Chandler's going to wrestle or whatnot. But I think for a matchup, the only potentially better matchup might have been like McGregor.
Yeah, I think that was the one they would have done if McGregor was ready to come back sooner.
But regardless, I think that he's very deserving of this fight. It's important that he's having, big fights like this, and hopefully this will lead to him progressing further.
I think the winner could get a title, especially if Chandler wins. I think he'll get a title shot.
100%, he'd be 100% deserving of it.
Yeah,
Without a doubt, without a doubt. How old is Chandler as well?
he's on the older side. He's been fighting for a long time and been in a lot of wars. So, if I want to say he's probably got 3 years left in him at most.
3 years. I mean, he's 36 years of age now.
Yeah.
So he's very much towards the latter stages of his career, especially considering he's fought as much as he has. But
I mean, if either of them are going to become champion, it's got to be in these next few fights.
Well, that's the thing. But I think that if he does become champion, that would be so amazing.
For him. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
I remember what people were saying before he came to the UFC. Like, been scared to fight the top class competition. He's been in Bellator taking steroids the whole time. Apparently, that's not my claim, but yeah, and for him to come to the UFC and prove himself in every single fight he's been in has been so close either way. Do you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been dominated once. Like Oliveira fight, he almost finished him in that first round. Gaethje the same. They just went to war for 3 rounds, and he's won the other two. So this fight, I don't think Poirier will dominate. I don't think I think Chandler's leveled up to a level now where these top guys can't dominate him. But early on, without breaking it down, I think I lean to Dustin Poirier, just his striking, and I think his jiu-jitsu will be good enough to kind of keep Chandler away from that area. And I think Dustin Poirier tweeted 5 rounds as well. So I think if it was a 3-round fight, I think Chandler could maybe go for takedowns a lot more. But I think over 5 rounds, I favour Dustin right now.
I mean, it's a hard one to make a prediction on. If I'm honest with you, I'm not going to make a prediction.
Yeah, I mean, that's not my prediction. That's just off the top of my head, I'm kind of leaning towards Dustin.
I'd like to see Chandler win it if I
Yeah,
were to say anything, but at the same time, it's a hard one to call, really. Obviously, Dustin Poirier,
he's got elite.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
generally one of the best lightweights of all time. If you look at his resume, he's been like 6 UFC world champions. It's crazy. 7 UFC world champions, I'm pretty sure.
And that's the thing about experience against, all of these different world champions, all wins as well. I mean, it's just going to be a challenging fight for Chandler. It'd be really interesting to see how he does do against him.
It's going to be, I'm so excited for that. So what's going on in the news right now today? Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything massive that's happened. I've just been going through Paulo Costa's Twitter most of the time, to be honest.
His Twitter is absolutely mental, all right?
Yeah.
Uriah Hall.
Oh yeah. It's a shame to see. Obviously, he had so much potential when he got to the Ultimate Fighter final, losing to Kelvin Gastelum, but people were still very excited. And although he's put on some amazing performances when he spinning kicked Gegard Mousasi and a lot of other good performances, but I think he'd never reached the heights everyone expected him to.
It's one of those things. I think Uriah Hall. There was always potential there for him. You always had potential. With Uriah Hall, it's a big name retiring from the UFC.
Yeah.
I think that although he may not have been necessarily the best domestic performer, if you look at his fan base, fans love him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In my opinion,
towards the later, I think people kind of, because I think there was for a period of time he didn't necessarily want to be there 100%. I thought I got that vibe from him. Like sometimes he'd turn up and take someone's head off, and sometimes he'd turn up and look like he doesn't really want to fight. I think we've broke down one of his fights recently, and we said the same.
I was out there about
Munoz won it. It was the Brazilian guy, someone Muniz.
Yeah.
Muniz, yeah.
That was very recently. Actually, my
Yeah.
last podcast we did, fun enough.
Yeah, God, that was a lifetime ago now.
Back in the Adesanya, mate. What's in the main
Cannon.
card, was it? What was it, early prelims?
Yeah, that shit. That card was crazy, man.
Absolutely mental. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a shame to see him retire and whatnot, but I suppose that he's been fighting the UFC for a very long time and whatnot.
Yes, man.
And realistically, there's no real progression for him as of right now. I think that as far as he's beyond his prime.
Yeah.
And I feel like as of right now, he's either going to get pitted against opponents who are going to be who would be too good for him, or he's just going to be fighting, at non-ranked.
Yeah.
And it's not really worth it for him. He might as well leave with the legacy he's got. Even if it's not necessarily from his performances, even if it's not necessarily from being from ever being a champion. Regardless, just the impact he's had, because he has definitely had an impact.
Yeah.
Definitely so.
Yeah. So on to some different news. Let's see. Sam Alvey's been cut from the UFC. I think he was, I want to say, 8 losses, 1 no contest in his last 9. So I think we're not going to go in too harsh, because obviously Sam Alvey has embraced the memes. He's been posting on his Instagram all day. But I think that was probably the right decision, don't you?
That's the thing. I mean, he's not won in a very, very long time. I believe the last time he might have won, when would that have been? I mean, he had a draw, to be fair.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
the
yeah, it was a
2020.
draw, yeah. Who was that against?
That was against Young Dayton,
Oh, right.
which is light heavyweight, which is interesting. But yeah, I think the last time he won would have been back in I
2018.
2018.
I swear, is it 2018?
It was
Yeah,
2018. So the last time he won would have been back in February in 2018, which would have been 4 years ago now. So the fact that he's been fighting for 4 years, he's had the many fights he's done. It was the right decision to do. I don't think he's necessarily, a poor fighter and whatnot. I just don't think he's cut out with the UFC, and he's been fighting for years as well.
Yeah.
Like, how old is he now?
Uh, 40 almost, probably.
Oh,
I'll say like 37.
He's got to be around that. He's got to be around that. But yeah, no, not quite, to be fair, 36.
Oh, right, 36, yeah.
Well, so he's quite old. He's towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's probably the correct decision and whatnot, especially considering there were fighters who were being cut who weren't Sal Alvey. But I know they did make the announcement that they were going to be cutting a lot of fighters and whatnot, and it was more or less inevitable.
Yeah.
If he didn't get cut this year, but every other fighter did. Well, not every other fighter, but a lot of other fighters who did, who had maybe been more successful in recent times, it would have been ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think the last thing to touch on quickly is we'll just give a little prediction on the main event next week. We've got Dominic Cruz against Chito Vera, which is a massive fight in that bantamweight division. Obviously, Dominic Cruz beating Pedro Munoz last time out, and Chito dominating Rob Font. I remember watching that fight and breaking it down on here, and Chito looked very good, but he's fighting Dominic Cruz, which I don't think has, I don't know, I think it's some stat where he's never lost outside a championship fight. So, this one's going to be interesting, the 5-round main event. I think for me, Dominic obviously has amazing footwork, but I think Cheeto's kicks, brutal leg kicks. He's obviously finished Sean O'Malley with leg kicks. He's won fights with leg kicks before. And I think that's going to favour him a lot. I think early on he's going to come out a bit slow. Dominic Cruz is going to land combinations. But I think over the 5 rounds, Cheeto's kicks are going to really hurt him and slow down the movement. And I think Cheeto is going to get like a 4th or 5th round TKO. That's my prediction.
I'd have to agree 100%. I quite literally think it's going to be the exact same result, same way. I feel like you said about him, not losing outside a championship fight.
Yeah.
So I think his last loss was Henry Cejudo.
Yeah.
Which was TKO, and prior to that it was Cody Garbrandt.
That was for the belt.
But yeah, no.
So is that it?
Well, he also had one other loss against Uriah Faber, but in WEC.
Yeah, I think those were all title fights as well. So
it wouldn't surprise me in WEC with Uriah Faber.
I think he was a kid. They were both kids at the time, but Faber burst onto the scene to win the title, and then obviously Dominic Cruz beat him 2 times after that. So yeah, I think we both agree on the main event. Is there a certain path you see? Is there a way you see Dominic winning? Obviously, I think Chito can kind of like be a bit stationary at times, and Dominic Cruz is a very good combination puncher. So I think over a 3-round fight, I'd actually pick Dominic Cruz, but I think the 5 rounds, the damage is going to add up.
I think that's the exact same for me. I think that with it being 5 rounds, I think those kicks over time are just going to accumulate damage, and I think that there's only so many kicks you can take before you get to a point in which I think that leg kicks are so effective.
Yeah.
As far as a stand-up fight is concerned, can't imagine being going very much.
No, I think because Chito is very good at jiu-jitsu, and no one really takes Dom down and doesn't. Not even Henry Cejudo didn't take Dominic Cruz down, so exactly. I can't see it. Yeah.
But yeah, no. As I said, yeah, I think he's gonna leg kicks. He's got some nice stand up all round.
Do you remember Font when he was just like side kicking Rob Font in the face and stuff like that? It's brutal, man. Like, you give that guy 5 rounds to work, he can damage people.
Absolutely savage. I'm also gonna go Chito Vera for this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's basically all we've got to talk about today. We'll be back next week. So yeah, thank you for listening. This has been Combat Chatters. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Combat Chatters Podcast. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.